Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we are diving deep into a single, pretty radical concept, actually. It challenges basically every piece of conventional wisdom you've probably ever been told about careers, savings, assets, the lot,
Yeah, we're looking at a framework for financial freedom built around something called the Cashflow Quadrant.
right?
And this model, it was created by Robert Kiyosaki, and it doesn't just categorize, how you make money. It fundamentally dictates your entire financial path, your trajectory.
Mm-hmm.
And what's really important to grasp up front, I think, is the author himself. He's like the ultimate example of non-traditional success. Failed English twice,
Yeah,
apparently.
twice.
Yeah, openly disliked the whole education system, and he built his financial education based on, well, real-world stuff, on systems, not academic credentials.
That's crucial context, isn't it? It immediately tells you that the traditional paths, get good grades, get a secure job, that isn't necessarily the only path or even the best path to wealth.
Exactly. Sometimes those traditional credentials might actually be blinding you to better strategies.
So that's the core tension here. Our mission today, then, is to unpack this four-quadrant model, E, S, B, and I, and figure out the profound internal shifts, the changes in identity, and maybe the skills needed to move from just seeking security to actively pursuing real financial freedom.
Yeah, and if you feel like you're at a financial fork in the road right now, this kind of map is pretty essential.
Okay, let's unpack this map then. The entire framework, it seems, rests on where your cash comes from, right? And it splits the financial world into two main sides. Let's start with the left side because that's where most of us begin.
Right, the left side is E and S. So E is the employee. This person works for the system, relies on that paycheck every month or every 2 weeks.
Trading time for money.
Pretty much. Trading time for money, and their primary focus in life generally is job security, stability.
Okay. Then you move slightly inward, I guess, to the S, the self-employed or small business owner.
Yeah, the S type, they often break free from the E quadrant because, they want to do their own thing, have more control. But here's the critical distinction. While they own a job or a small business, they ultimately are the system.
Ah,
They're
okay.
the chief cook and bottle washer, as they say. If the S type stops working, the income just stops flowing.
Gotcha.
Okay,
Okay, now we cross what you called the Great Divide over to the right side, the B and the I. This is where the goals shift completely.
totally. B is for big business. A B type owns a system, and that system is designed to work independently of them.
Right, they're not in the system day to day in the same way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They create the system, they own it, they control its output, they're leveraging other people's time, other people's intelligence.
Okay. And finally, the ultimate goal for many, the I for investor.
Right. The I is where your money works for you. You're investing capital into systems, maybe systems you created before, or systems owned by others, and your money generates income passively.
So here's the heart of it then. We aren't just talking about different job titles here. We're talking about completely different worldviews, aren't we?
Fundamentally different. The source material states it really clearly. The left side, ENS, is motivated basically by security.
Hmm. Fear, maybe?
Well, the desire for security, yeah. While the right side, BNI, is motivated by freedom.
Okay.
And that philosophical difference that really explains why changing quadrants is so incredibly difficult. Most of us, we're conditioned from childhood onwards to seek job security.
And that security mindset, you argue, can become a kind of trap, a crippling one.
Oh, absolutely. Just think about the standard financial script for the, average educated person.
Yeah.
School leads to a job,
Yep.
which usually requires a car payment, then maybe a mortgage for the house, and this spiral just inevitably leads to more and more consumer debt.
Right. Keeping up appearances.
And that standardized path leaves a huge percentage of people, apparently less than 3 months away from financial bankruptcy, which means they're forced to cling desperately to their job, no matter how miserable they might be, just to service all that debt.
Wow. And on top of that, the E quadrant gets taxed the most heavily, which really limits their ability to control their own cash flow, doesn't it?
That's a really harsh reality that's documented in the source material. For many E's, yes, a substantial chunk of their earnings is just intercepted via withholding before they even see the money.
Ouch.
And that contrasts really sharply with the B and I quadrants, which, they have much greater opportunities for tax advantages because they control assets and systems.
Mm.
The employee is kind of operating with one hand tied behind their back simply because of how they get their income.
Okay, let's look at the S quadrant reality again. We established they're often the perfectionists. Why is that perfectionism a financial liability even if they're, like, really successful at what they do?
Well, it boils down to identity, really. The S-Type's core motto is often, nobody does it better. They pride themselves on being the expert, the brilliant brain surgeon, the amazing consultant.
And that's why clients hire them.
Exactly. But that same mindset makes them terrible at scaling the business. They're reluctant to hire people or delegate tasks because they genuinely believe that no one else is up to their, demanding standards.
So they basically create a job for themselves, a high-paying job maybe, but one they can never actually leave. Because if they step away for a year, the business just vanishes because they are the business.
Precisely. And this is perfectly illustrated by that analogy of the water haulers in the book.
Oh yeah, tell us about that.
Okay, so you have Ed. Ed's the S-type. He wins a contract to supply water to a village. What does he do? Immediately buys 2 buckets and starts hauling water back and forth, working himself ragged.
Right, doing it himself?
Doing it himself. He worked harder, hired his sons to help, eventually ran into union problems, management headaches. He was just hauling buckets, constantly struggling to meet demand.
Okay, classic S-type trap. And then there's Bill, the B-type.
Right. Bill disappears for like 6 months. He wasn't hauling any buckets. He was focused entirely on creating this system.
Ah, the
The
pipeline.
pipeline. He wrote a business plan, incorporated the company, found investors, and then came back with a construction crew that built this high-volume stainless steel pipeline.
Okay.
And Bill's pipeline could supply cleaner water, 247, with far less physical labor on his part, and he could charge 75% less than Ed.
Wow.
And Bill didn't just solve the one village's problem. He realized if one village needed water, probably others did too. So he scaled his pipeline concept globally.
So Ed was rewarded for his effort, his sweat. Bill was rewarded for his system.
That is the critical difference between S and B, right there.
Okay, let's talk about crossing that bridge completely then to the B quadrant. The goal shifts from active effort to leverage. If the B likes to surround themselves with smart people and delegate, how do they keep control? How do they keep direction without it just becoming chaos?
Well, that's the essential insight into the B mindset, isn't it? Their motto is basically the opposite of the S. Why do it yourself when you can hire someone to do it for you, and maybe they can even do it better?
Right.
The B's skill is really in management, in having the vision and securing the funding, not necessarily in the technical execution itself.
We see that brilliantly in the story about Henry Ford in the source material, don't we?
Oh yeah, the Ford story. He was known to call in his assistants when some intellectuals posed really complex technical questions to him.
Right, he didn't answer directly.
He didn't answer directly, not because he didn't know the answer, but because he understood his greatest asset was his time and his ability to think strategically. He delegated the technical recall stuff so he could focus on the big picture, the million-dollar problems.
That's a great illustration. And this brings us to the famous McDonald's test. That really encapsulates the B quadrant success, doesn't it?
It really does. Ask yourself this. Can you personally make a better hamburger than McDonald's?
Yeah, probably. Most people would say yes.
Almost universally, yes. Okay, then ask this. Can you personally build a better business system than McDonald's?
Ah, that stops you cold, doesn't it?
It usually does.
Right.
B success is all about the durability, the scalability, the efficiency of the system that delivers the product, not necessarily the absolute quality of the product itself.
Right. Once that robust system is built, then we can move into the I quadrant, the investor. And this is where we find Kiyosaki's definition of true financial wealth.
Exactly. True wealth, according to the source, it's measured in time, not dollars.
Time, not dollars. How so?
It's defined specifically as the number of days you could survive without physically working while still maintaining your current standard of living.
That's a fundamental reframing, isn't it? It doesn't matter if you have $1 million in the bank. If your monthly expenses are, say, $100,000, that million's only going to last 10 months.
Precisely. Your wealth is determined by how long your passive income, the money coming in without you working, covers your expenses. And if you look at the truly rich, those who've really achieved financial freedom, the source notes that they typically receive 70% or more of their total income from the I quadrant, from investments.
70%? Wow.
Compare that to the poor and middle class, who generally get 80% or more from wages E or S quadrant income. The income streams are fundamentally reversed.
Now, most people, especially in the E and S quadrants, they view the I quadrant as inherently risky. We're taught that investing is dangerous. How does the source challenge that view of risk?
It's a really powerful distinction he makes. Kiyosaki argues that investing itself isn't risky. Being financially uneducated is what's risky.
Okay.
People who seek security often pursue diversification, which he kind of suggests is really just a strategy for not losing money, rather than actively making it.
Wait, but diversification is like investing 101. It's conventional wisdom. Are you saying successful I-quadrant investors reject diversification?
Not entirely reject it, perhaps, but they focus their efforts much more intensely. Think about it. Security-minded people often cast a really wide, thin net, hoping to catch a few small fish and minimize any potential harm if one area goes bad.
Okay, makes sense.
Successful investors, on the other hand, they identify really strong opportunities, the good deals, and they focus significant resources there. They know that their financial education allows them to calculate and manage the risk rather than just trying to avoid risk altogether.
So it's about focus, based on education. And what's the simple illustration he gives for building that foundation of passive income?
Oh, that's the Monopoly formula, taught by his rich dad. It's simply 4 greenhouses, 1 red hotel.
Like in the game.
Exactly like in the game. The idea is simple. Acquire smaller, cash-flowing assets, those are the greenhouses, and then eventually exchange them for larger, higher-value assets, like the red hotel. It's about allowing the system, the investment itself, to set you free from the daily struggle of earning a living.
This shift, though, from ES to BI, it's clearly way more than just changing your job title. It sounds like a massive psychological change. The source calls it an internal journey, like the caterpillar becoming a butterfly.
That analogy is perfect, actually, because the transition requires a profound emotional transformation. We learn that financial IQ is apparently 90% emotional and only about 10% technical.
90% emotional. Really?
Yeah, which means, learning the accounting or the technical side, that's the easy part. The hard part is mastering your own psychology, your emotions around money.
Why is that emotional hurdle so immense then? What's the core issue?
It's fear, plain and simple. The greatest cause of financial struggle, according to the source, is the overwhelming, often paralyzing fear of losing money.
Mm-hmm.
When people grow up valuing security above all else, every loss feels like a huge personal failure, or worse, like a threat to their very survival. To truly succeed in the I or B quadrant, you have to learn to be emotionally neutral to winning and losing.
Emotionally neutral. That sounds difficult.
It is. You have to learn to view losses simply as feedback, as, tuition paid to the school of real-world finance. It's data.
Okay. And that emotional intelligence, that neutrality, is what allows you to challenge really fundamental assumptions, like whether your own home, your personal residence, is actually an asset.
This is probably one of the most controversial yet defining lessons in the source material. A house, for most people, is not an asset. It is a liability.
Okay, hold on. Why?
Because the definition is simple. An asset puts money into your pocket, and a liability takes money out of your pocket. Your house takes money out every month, mortgage payments, property taxes, insurance, maintenance.
But wait, for most people, their house is their biggest investment. It's their main source of equity. Are you suggesting they should sell their house?
No, the source doesn't necessarily advocate selling the home if it provides, lifestyle value or happiness, but it forces you, the listener, to be really honest about its financial function. Your house is an asset on the bank's balance sheet because you owe the money for it, but it's not an asset on your balance sheet. And understanding that distinction teaches the critical difference between good debt and bad debt.
Good debt versus bad debt. Explain that.
Okay, so good debt is debt secured by a cash-flowing asset. Basically, debt that someone else pays for, like tenants paying the mortgage on your rental property.
Right. The rent covers the debt.
Exactly. Bad debt is the stuff you pay for with your own sweat and blood, like credit card debt, car loans, or even your personal mortgage. It comes out of your pocket.
Got it. So for the listener who's hearing this, maybe recognizing their E or S mindset, but they feel ready to take this internal journey, what are the actionable practical steps? How do you start moving towards B or I without, taking on catastrophic risk immediately?
You absolutely have to start small. The advice is always baby steps, not some great leap forward.
Okay.
The foundational step, the absolute key, is taking total control of your cash flow. And that begins with the discipline of paying yourself first.
Paying yourself first. What does that mean in practice?
It means when that paycheck comes in, a set portion, maybe 10%, maybe more, must immediately go into an investment account or towards a debt elimination strategy before you pay any bills, before rent, before groceries, before anything else.
Okay. Prioritize savings or investing. And when it comes to eliminating that consumer debt, the stuff that's really shackling many E&S types to their jobs, the recommendation is more like a surgical strike, right? Not spreading payments thin.
Exactly. This is about implementing the cascade method, or sometimes called the debt snowball. Here's how you do it, just conversationally speaking. First, list out all your consumer debts, credit cards, store cards, small loans, from the smallest balance to the largest.
Okay, smallest to largest balance.
Second, you pay the absolute minimum amount due on every single one of them except the smallest.
Right. Keep them current.
Keep them current. Third, you take that extra amount you decided to pay yourself first. Let's say it's $150 or $200, and you apply that entire extra lump sum only to the debt with the very smallest balance. You attack it.
So you're focusing all your extra firepower on one single target. Get a quick win.
Yes. Get that psychological win. When that smallest debt is finally paid off, gone, you don't relax or spend the extra money. You take the entire payment amount you were making on that first debt, that's the minimum payment, plus the extra $150 or $200, and you roll that full cumulative amount onto the next smallest debt on your list.
Ah, so the payment snowballs gets bigger with each debt you pay off.
Exactly. It creates this incredible momentum. It eliminates the psychological burden much faster because you see progress, and it drastically accelerates the whole payoff process.
Yeah.
Following this disciplined procedure, the source suggests most people can actually be consumer debt-free in maybe 5 to 7 years.
5 to 7 years, that's achievable. And another critical point for success, especially in the B&I quadrants, is finding the right guidance, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely crucial. Professionals have coaches. Amateurs generally don't. You have to seek out a mentor, someone who has already successfully done what you want to do, someone operating effectively in the BRI quadrant.
And be careful not to confuse a mentor with just an advisor.
That's a key distinction. Don't confuse a true mentor with, say, a financial advisor who is often an E or S type themselves, operating for fees and commissions. They might be selling you products rather than teaching you systems or mindset. A real mentor is invested in your actual success, not just your next transaction.
Right, someone who's walked the path. Now, this all sounds like a pretty massive overhaul, maybe overwhelming for some, but the source material gives a comforting example that you don't necessarily have to quit your E-quadrant job tomorrow to start building freedom. There's the story of the two firefighters.
Yeah, that anecdote really shows the power of the hybrid approach. Both these guys, they maintained their E-quadrant jobs as firefighters. Secure salary, benefits, pension potential.
Okay, kept the security.
Kept the security baseline. But they dedicated their time outside of work to becoming professional investors in the I quadrant. One of them grew a portfolio of 45 rental houses, generating something like $10,000 a month in net passive income.
Wow, $10 Ks a month passively while still being a firefighter.
Yeah. And the other guy accumulated a stock portfolio worth over $3 million. They achieved significant financial wealth alongside their job stability. It shows it's possible.
So stability, it turns out, isn't necessarily about finding the single most secure job. It might actually come from operating successfully across the divide in more than one quadrant.
That's a great way to put it. The flexibility and the freedom they achieved came from having money working for them in the I quadrant, which allowed them to remain calm and strategic, regardless of any, volatility or politics in their E-quadrant job sector.
This has been a true deep dive. It really hammers home why focusing exclusively on a paycheck or just job security is often, ironically, the riskiest financial move you can make in the long run. The central theme here, it seems, is that achieving genuine financial freedom requires a profound shift in your mindset, moving away from that security-seeking ES world and towards system building and investing in the BI world.
And that path, it really starts with self-education and taking absolute immediate control of your cash flow.
Right. And if you're still feeling that strong pull of security, that fear maybe, I want to leave you with one final, pretty provocative thought from the source material.
Go on.
Kiyosaki warns that people seek security specifically to avoid risk, but seeking security to avoid risk is the riskiest thing you can do.
Wow. That's powerful. It flips the whole thing on its head.
It really does. So it raises an important question for you, the listener. What financial risks are you maybe avoiding right now by clinging so tightly to perceived job security? And more importantly, what immense financial opportunities in the B&I quadrants might that fear be completely blinding you to?
Yeah, definitely something to think about. Maybe take a moment after this to consider, what quadrant do you currently get most of your income from? What level of investor, if any, are you right now? And maybe, just maybe, what's one small baby step, like setting up that pay yourself first account, or just listing your debts for the cascade method, or even looking for that first potential mentor? What's one small thing you can do today to begin building your own pipeline toward that financial fast track?
Great final thoughts. Thank you for taking this deep dive with us. We'll see you next time.